Reinforcement in Revit. So for the previous webinar, we have discussed about the structural connections, all those things. So today we'll be discussing about the structural reinforcement in Revit because I got so many feedback that I should take a webinar on structural reinforcement in Revit. So for the today's session, I'll be discussing on the basics of adding rebars on a structural element and then generating detailed drawing as well as schedules from that. And also I'll be discussing with the area and fabric reinforcement. So let me just start with the session. So for the first session, I'll be just discussing about how to add rebar on columns and beams. So first of all, in the structure tab, we have reinforcement option available over here. So if I click on the reinforcement, I have different options, that is rebar cover settings, reinforcement settings, and reinforcement numbers. So suppose if I click on the reinforcement settings, we have these many options. That is, in the general tab, we have host structural rebar within area and path reinforcement. We have include hook in rebar shape definition, which a dialog message will appear whenever we add rebar. And we have include end treatments in rebar shape definition. As well as towards the reinforcement rounding, we can make adjustments over here. The increments we can change, and we can change the bar length to nearest up and down. So these many options are available. And towards the area and path reinforcement, I'll discuss it later. So initially, we have all this reinforcement settings. And coming on to the cover. So if I click on this cover settings over here, rebar cover settings, you can see that Revit has created 8 different rebar settings, which will be used in dimensioning of rebar. You can delete it, or you can add new one, or you can duplicate the existing one. So for instance, I'll do one thing. I'll just duplicate this interior framing columns. For that, I'll click over there and I'll just duplicate. So I'll get an exact copy of the interior framing columns. So what I'll do is I'll just rename it for my requirement. So I'll just delete this and I'll just save, for instance, my project. So I have given a new cover. So let me just change the dimension to 35, for instance, and I'll say OK. So now this cover has been added to the project. Now what I'll be doing is I have to put this cover into this element. So for that, I'll click on this cover. After that, I'll select the elements. So I'll just hold Control and select all the elements. And here you have an option, cover settings. So drop down that you have all the available cover settings over here. So since I have created a cover for my project, I'll be choosing that particular cover. Say, click that one, it will be added to the project, say escape. So there is one more option by which you can do this. That is, you just click on the element, and if you go to the property dialog box, here when you go down, you can see the rebar cover option. When you click over here, you can see the different options available. Since I have already given the input as interior my project, it is showing this way. Otherwise, I can choose from any of these options and put it over here. So we have rebar cover top face, bottom face, and other faces as well. So these two methods you can apply to put the cover setting. Now let me just go to level 2. So you can see I have placed 2 different section lines, one horizontal and vertical line. 2 sections I have placed which cuts the beam both horizontally and vertically. Now let me just go to section 1. And you can see the section 1 where you have the beams, columns, and the foundations. And I have added reference planes for convenience so that I can easily place the rebar. So I have already added the reference plane. So you have to put the reference plane as per your project. So first of all, I'll do one thing. I'll use the first method, how to put the rebar. So I'll just click on this beam, and in the context tab in structure, you can see under the reinforcement rebar option. So I'll just select the rebar over here and say we'll get that rebar shape definitions, which will include hooks and will ignore end treatments. So just I'm clicking OK. So in the right hand side, you can see different rebar shapes available. So you have to choose whichever rebar shapes you want to place over here. So let me just put stirrups on the screen. For that, I'll just scroll down and check which is the best shape for stirrups. So here I'll be using MT1 shape. So I'll just click on this MT1 shape. When I go here I have an option parallel to work plane, parallel to cover and perpendicular to cover. So I'm just clicking on perpendicular to cover. So you can see that now the rebar is placed perpendicular to the cover. So let me just place it here. Okay, say escape. I have created this reference line just to place the rebar in exact position. So what I'll do is I'll use the modify tool and align it according to the reference plane and the center of the rebar. So I have placed it in the reference line. Now I want to get more an option where I can place more number of stirrups. So what I can use is in the context tab, you have a layout where you have different options. Either you can go with single bar or fixed number, maximum spacing, number with spacing or minimum clear space. So what I'll do is, for instance, I'm going to use fixed number with spacing. So number with spacing, I'll choose that. And I'm going to put 8 bars with the spacing, let's say 150. I'm using that. And I want to change the rebar diameter. So here default it is 16 mm bar. I'm going to use it as 10 mm bar. So I'll just drop down and use 10 mm bar over here so that it gets changed. Now I can use the mirror tool to place it on the other side as well. So if I click over here, I'll use the mirror draw axis and I will just pick the middle. Now this has been placed on the other face as well. Now I am to place the stirrups in this center portion. So I'll use copy tool over here. You can use whatever according to your wish so that you can create the stirrups around the beams. So I'm just using the copy tool and I'm just copying it for, let's say I'm using my own ways, my own inputs. You can use your own. So I have placed it this way. So if I want to change the property, not property, the numbers and the spacing, what I can do is I'll just click on this so that in the context tab, we have the spacing. So if you want to change the spacing, you can change it to the requirement. So it gets changed. So this way we can place the stirrups on beams. Now I want to place the top and bottom bar. So that what I'll do is again I'll select the beam. Then in the structure tab, I'll go to rebar, select rebar. Similar procedure, that is you will get different rebar shapes. So I want to place a straight bar. So what I'll do is I'll choose M02 with hooks. That is they have hooks by default. So I'll select M02. And the next option is how I should place. See, this is perpendicular to the cover. So here I have placement options where I can place in different ways. Suppose if I am placing it parallel to work plane, you can hover over and check whichever is suitable. So this is the ideal one to place the bottom bar. So I'll just place it towards the edge. Okay. So once I place it, I'll say escape. And I want to change this bar. Now it is single. I want to change it to different numbers. So I'll just use fixed number and I will input the value according to my requirement. So you can change in as per your project requirement. So I have put 4 bars in this direction. So if I click over here, I can change the diameter of the bar as well. Now I want to change the hook parameters, or if I want to push this particular hooks, the bars towards the center of the column, what I can do is I just want to edit the bars. For that, I'll click this bar. So here you have an option called edit constraint. So when you click on this edit constraint, you can see that there is a blue color snap point available over here. So you can click on it. When you click on it, the default will be 0 mm. So if you want to push this particular bar towards the center of this column, first you have to measure what is the distance till the center of the column by using this measure between two references option, and you can decide what has to be placed. So I know what is the distance. So I'm just inputting. I want to shift it to the center of the column. So I'm giving a value -175. So it has been shifted towards the center, and I will say finish. So I have moved it towards this side. And again, if I want to change this side also, again use the same tool, edit constraints. Click on this particular snap point and you can change it. So it also got shifted. So this way I can edit the bar. Next, if I want to change the length of this hook, what can I do? So if I click on this particular bar in the property dialog box, you can see the hook dimensions described here. So here you can see that the value of parameter A and the value of parameter G is faded out. It is turned off. So I just want to change these two dimensions to edit the length of the hook. So what I can do is, in the property dialog box, you have an option called override hook length. If I click on this override hook length, automatically what happens is this A and G gets turned off. So if I want to change the dimension, the length of this hook, I can just type it over here. According to my requirement, I can type it over here, and G also I'm changing. Now you can see it has been reflected in the bar length. It automatically gets changed when I give the input values over the property dialog. So this way you can edit the bar by using the edit constraints option. So now I have placed a bar in this method. Suppose if I want to sketch a bar and place it, we have a different option available. So I'm clicking this beam, and in the structure again rebar. So in the placement, I have an option called sketch. So if I select the sketch option, I can select the beam again. So it will get fade out, and we'll get a drawing area where I can sketch the rebar. So I have kept this reference planes as a snap point over here so that I can place the top bar easily. So let me just click on the snap point, and I am placing it towards the end of the column. Okay, and let's say, for example, I am giving a value and say finish. So you can see that the top bar has been placed. If I click on that, I can edit the diameter of the bar. Now the same bar, I have to place it on the other side as well. So what I'll do is, before that I have to specify what are the numbers. So if I select here, I'll go to the context tab layout option, and I'll change to fix that number, suppose 4. So now I have fixed this as 4 numbers, as well as the bottom bar is also 4 numbers. So if I select this, I can mirror this. So once you input all the properties which is there for this bar, then only you have to mirror it so that you can reduce the time. So if I click over here, I'll go to the mirror draw axis option, and I'll pick the midpoint. I'll draw axis over there. Now the rebar has been placed on the other end as well. So now you have placed the bars in the beam. So the next option is I have to place bars in the columns. So what I can do is, I'll just select the column like we have done for beam. Again, go to structure tab, and in this option, the rebar option, we have, go to rebar option, and I'm going to place same stirrups on this column. So I'll be using empty one, and placement perpendicular to the cover. So you can see this way we have to place the stirrups. So I'm just placing it over there, say finish. Click on this particular rebar, and here in the context tab, I have the layout option, which I have described before as well. So here I am going to, since it's a column, I am going to give an option where I can use number with spacing, which I have done for beam as well. So I am using number with spacing, and I'll give a quantity 4 and a spacing of 150. So you can see it gets reflected in this drawing. I can copy this like I have done for beam. Similarly, I can copy this to whatever distance required. And again, if I want to copy, I can just copy it again to whatever distance I would like to place it. Okay, if I want to change the spacing of this particular, I can click over here and just change the spacing to whatever required. So now we have placed the stirrups in the column. Again, I have to place straight bars, longitudinal bars. So what I can do is, again, click on this column, go to structure, then rebar. Then I have to choose the longitudinal bar. So here I'll be using the straight bar M00. So I'll click on M00 and I'll change this to 13. Whatever diameter you want, you can change it to that particular diameter. Now I have to place it this way, parallel to work plane. So I'll just place it this way. Okay, say finish. Then click on this rebar. Again, in the context tab, you can change the numbers. So I'm going to give some fixed number and I'll give 3. Okay. After that, I have to place this bar on the other side as well. So what I'll do is I'll use the mirror option. So since I have the center of column, I am using this mirror option. Now it has been placed on the other end as well. So I have placed the longitudinal and stirrups. Now I have to place a rebar in the footing. So what I'll do is, for the isolated footing, I'll just change the rebar. I'll click on this and then in the structure, go to rebar. So for the isolated footing, I'm using a rebar shape of this one, M70. So you can see when you hover over, you can change the direction. Here also you can change the direction by using placement option. So I'm just placing it over here. Say escape. Click on this rebar again. And I'm going to change the diameter to 16. And in here, I'm going to change it to fixed number, say 6. So now we have 6 numbers, 16 mm dia bar. So what I'll do is I'll again place the rebar in the other direction. So what I'll do is again, I'll go to the isolated footing, structure, rebar, same M17 I'll be using, and I'll just change perpendicular to cover. So I'll just place it over here. Once I place it, I'll click this, and in the context tab, I'll change fixed number, say 6. So now you can see that it is not aligned properly. I'll just click it. I can just pull it out and place it on. So if I want to change this, I can use this arrow and just pull it out. So this way you can place the rebar in the foundation as well. Now, if I want to connect a rebar, connect the column with foundation, again, I can use the sketch tool and connect a rebar, which is connecting the column towards the foundation. So for that, again, I'll select rebar, and in the placement, I'll use sketch option. So I have to pick a plane. So I'm using this plane. Then I'll just simply draw a rebar and I'll say finish. So go to modify tool, align. Am I audible, Pavan?
Yes, Vidya.
Okay, because there is some internet issue which warning is shown.
No, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. So now I have placed a rebar which is connecting the column to the foundation. So again, I'll click that particular rebar, and in the context tab, I'll click on fix number and I'll change according to my wish 4. Now I can mirror this rebar as well. So mirror. So we have placed the rebar in the column and foundation as well. To reduce the time, I'll just copy the, I'll just copy everything by using the filter option, check none, structural rebar, and I'll just mirror it using the mirror pro axis. I'll just type SM. So it has been placed on the other end as well. So when you go to 3D and check, you're not able to see this properly. So what I'll do is go to section 1 again, select everything, filter, check none. I think this I have discussed before as well. Take the structural rebar. Okay. In the property dialog box, we have an option called view visibility, which is a new feature. Select this edit option and check all to view unobscured. Filter, check none, structural rebar, okay. Go to view visibility again, just hold shift. Now I'll change it to fine over here. Go to 3D. Now you can see the rebar. If I change to realistic, so you can see the rebar in 3D as well. So this is the way you can place rebar in column, footing and beams. Now let me just show you how to detail and schedule the quantities. So this is the same one which I have created now. So I just want to detail and schedule it. So let me just go to section 1 over here. I'll just hide whichever is not required for the sheet. So I'll first hide the section. Okay. Then I'll hide the levels. Okay. Now there is no level over here. And I'm going to hide this cropped region as well. So before that, I'll do one thing. I'll just partition whatever is there. Like I have to first group this reinforcement so that the schedule becomes easy. So I'll just select the whole reinforcement in this portion. Go to filter, select the structural rebar, and in the property box, you have an option called partition. And this partition will be used for scheduling. So I'll click here and I'll just say a name. For instance, let me just put as partition 1 and say apply. Okay, so now this rebar comes under partition 1. Again, I'll click this reinforcement in the other column as well. Filter, check none, structural rebar, okay. Again, here I'll drop down, I'll get partition 1. So I want this column reinforcement to be partition 1. So I'll click partition 1 and apply. So now these two belongs to partition 1. Now we have beam reinforcement. I'll just select this beam, filter, check none, structural rebar. Okay. Here I can change the name to partition 2. Apply. So we have partition, we have created 2 partitions. This will help me in annotating, detailing and creating schedules. So if I go here, structure, you can see we have created 2 partitions. Let me just close this. Now let me just go to section A. So here I am going to detail the beam. So I'll just hide this section. And I'll hide the reference plane as well. Okay. So I'll try to show the beam only so that I can detail the beam. Okay. And I'm going to change it to 1:20. And I don't want this column reinforcement as well. I'm just clicking hide in view elements. So here also I don't want this because I'm going to detail the beam alone. Hide in view elements. So now I'm going to detail this particular beam. So what I can do is go to the Annotate tab over here, Annotate, and we have an option called, in the tag, we have an option called multi-rebar. So here we have aligned multi-rebar annotation and linear multi-rebar annotation. So at a time, we can annotate different rebars. So let me just put linear multi-rebar annotation. And I will select this particular stirrup so that I can tag the entire stirrup and I can place it. Similarly, I can tag this as well since it's multilinear. I'll tag this also. So I have tagged this one. I want to tag the main bar as well. So I'm using tag by category. To annotate, tag by category. So I'm just selecting this bar, which is 316 mm, and this bar as well, and this bar. So I can just select this and place it. And I can just place this as well. So now I have given all the annotation. If I click on this stirrup, you can see different options to present it. So we have show all rebars in rebar set. We can show middle rebar in rebar set. We have select rebars in rebar set to show. And we have an option called show first and last rebar in set. Suppose if I click show first and last rebar in the rebar set, if I click, you can see it's showing the first and last rebar in that particular set. And if I click here also, we can use the same option. So it's not crowded now. So easily we can identify what is the property, like how many numbers in diameter and what is the spacing. So this way you can annotate the rebar. So this thing I can just place it on the sheet. So I can just hide the cropped region as well so that it will be little more clear. Let me just go to section BB. I'm just hiding the section and I'm just hiding the grids as well. Level also let me hide. Okay. So here also you can place it. Place the rebar annotation. So in this, I'll use the linear multi-rebar annotation, and I'll just choose this. Okay, and here also I can place it. So this way I can annotate this as well. So let me just show you how to create a schedule. After that, I'll just place it in the sheet. So click on the schedule, right click, and we have new schedules. Select new schedules. Here in the filter list, it is structure. Go down and you can see structural rebar. So click on that structural rebar. We have the name rebar schedule. If you want to change it, you can change the name as well as per your wish. Say OK. Once you say OK, you will get the schedule properties. I think I have mentioned this before for the connection schedule as well. So here I'm going to choose different options, which I have already predetermined that this has to be done in the schedule fields. You can prepare as per your wish so that you can add it into the schedule fields. So I'm just using the partition first. Then I'll be using the rebar number. Then I'll be using the type. Then the quantity. Then bar length. Then I'll be using the shape. Then you can use the hook lengths as well, like different parameters A, B, C, D, E. Whatever you want, you can add this also so that you can get the schedule of that as well. And finally, let me just use the total bar length. Okay. So this is the one which I'm going to prepare. Say OK. So you can see the rebar schedule has been prepared as per the fields which I have mentioned. So it has taken the fields which I have mentioned there and it has prepared a schedule. So as per your requirements, you can change the fields as well. And here in the sorting and grouping option, if I click on the sorting and grouping option, I can sort by using partition. Then I can use by rebar number. And these all are as per my wish. You can use any of this. And you can use the grand totals, which I have already mentioned in the previous webinar. You can use whichever you want. I'm using totals only. I'm just checking it off. And in the formatting, if you want to format this, suppose if I want to place everything in the center alignment, I can change the alignment to center. So all these options you can use. In the appearance option, this I have already mentioned in the previous webinar. You can check it on. If you don't want the blank row before data, you can check it off. Okay, say okay. So this way you can create the rebar schedule and you can edit these fields, filter, sorting, formatting, appearance, all this you can change. This is the way you can prepare the schedule of rebar. Now coming on to sheets, if I click new sheet, let's say A1 metric, I want to place this section, sorry, the rebar detailing as well as the schedules into this sheet. So what I can do is go to section AA and I'll just place the section over here. So you can see everything has been detailed over here. So this crop has been shown. Now this has turned to blue color because this has been placed in the sheet. That's why it has turned to blue color. Now let me just place this as well. So you can see the alignment is not proper. So what I can do is go to section BB and just click this and adjust this box. Okay. And I'll just hide this. Now good to go. I'll go to sheet. Now it has been changed. This thing I can align it according to section A. So now I have placed the detail part. Now I want to place the schedule in this. Just click on Rebar schedule. I can just place it over here. So this way you can detail and you can do the scheduling and place it on the sheet. So this is how we can do detailing and schedule. Now let me just discuss about this area fabric reinforcement part. Just close this. So here I have placed certain slab and walls so that I can show you how this area reinforcement and fabric reinforcement can be placed. So let me just go to level 1. So you can see this is a slab, and in the 3D you can see it has been, these two has been connected with the slab edge, so that I can show how this fabric area can be placed over here. So first thing I would like to show is go to level 2, and I'm just going to place area reinforcement on top of the slab. So for that, I'm clicking on area reinforcement and just select the element. The same dialog box will come as which came for rebar. Say OK. Now I have to draw the area. So I'll just select this rectangle, select the boundary. You can change the major direction as well. If you want to be in the opposite direction, just click over here and change it to the other direction and say OK. So now you can see it has been placed in this way. If I say undo, if I change the major direction to this way, say OK. Now it has been placed this way. So I'm just selecting this filter, check none, structural area reinforcement. OK. View visibility, view unobscured. So now you can see it in detail file level. Go to 3D. Now this area reinforcement has been placed in this slab. Now if I go to the east elevation or west elevation, whichever is you can use, because the wall comes in the east and west. So if I go to area again, select this wall, and I'll show the boundary. Say finish. Now I have placed reinforcement over here. Select this and go to level 2. You can see I have selected this. I want to be placed in the east as well. So I'll just use the mirror draw axis. So it has been placed in the other direction as well. So this way you can use this area reinforcement. Okay, now let me just show you how this fabric sheet works. Okay, for that, I'll go to level 1 and I want to place the fabric sheet. So click on this fabric sheet. Before that, I want to place cover for this fabric. So as I have mentioned before in reinforcement rebar cover setting, I'm going to add, before this topic, I discussed about how to duplicate it. Now I'm going to add a new cover. So I'm clicking on this cover and I'm just giving a cover name. For here, I'm going to give it a special cover for that particular fabric sheet. This value, let it be 40 itself, or you can change it as per your requirements. Say OK. After that, select the fabric sheet. Here you have different options for fabric sheet. Anything you can use. And you can see this particular fabric sheet appears over here. So based on the cover input which I have given, I'll get an option to place. So I'm just placing it here. So the fabric reinforcement has been placed. If I select this, filter, check now, structural fabric reinforcement, view visibility, say OK. Now you can see it in detail. Finally, go to 3D. The fabric reinforcement has been placed. So now let me just go to West and show you. I have created a slab edge here so that I can show how I can place fabric sheet in a slab edge as well. So go to West. I have already shown here the slab edge, and I'll just set the work plane using a pick up plane option, and I'll just choose the fabric sheet. And we have an option called bend sketch. So I'm just using this bend sketch option, and I'm just placing it over here. Say OK, pick up plane. Whatever I have chosen. Set work plane. Fabric sheet, bend sketch. So I have to use a sketch tool to show the fabric sheet, as I have mentioned for column and beam. So I'm just sketching this way. Okay. Say escape. Now I have sketched this particular rebar shape, and I'll say finish. So once I say finish, I'll just go to the level 1 and see how it is placed. So it is out of this particular wall. So what I can do is I'll just select this and I'll move this to the inside of the wall. Okay. So you can see that it's not perfect. Go to the West. In the wireframe, what you can do is just select this rebar, and in the property dialog box, just edit type and duplicate it. Duplicate it, you can give any name and say OK. So here you can see the overall width is 1829. So I have to change this width so that it exactly plays on that particular slab. So since I know the dimension of this, I am giving that input 2420 and say OK. In the 3D, some mistake has happened in this. Okay, this length is wrong. I'll undo this. Go to level 2, sorry, level 1. I'll do it again. Fabric sheet. Okay, say finish. Before that, I have to change the direction. Since I have put minor, that bar dimension was extending towards the wall direction. So I'll change this to major and say finish. Now when you go to level 1, you can see it has changed. Now just move this to inside of this wall. Now it is correct. Go to the West, wireframe. Now you can see this bar. Just click on it. Edit type, as I have mentioned before. Duplicate, give a name for this. And you have to change the width so that it exactly fits on the width of the wall. So now I can change it to 2420. Save. So since I have not changed the major and minor direction, that mistake happened. Go to 3D. Now you can see it has been placed this way. So I want this fabric sheet to extend from the slab edge towards this slab. So what I can do is go to best again. Just click on this, say edit sketch, select this, pull it out, extend it here. Again using the draw line option. Using the draw line option, I am just placing it here. Say finish. Go to 3D, you can see it has been extended towards the slab. So this way you can use the fabric sheet option using all these tools I have mentioned and place the fabric sheet on top of the slab. Now there is one more option called as fabric area. So what I'll do is I'll just place fabric area option in this particular slab. So go to fabric area here, just click on that, just click the slab so that you can get a sketch tool. You can use this particular option as I have mentioned for area reinforcement. Just click over here. You can see this is in this direction. So if I change the major direction to this side, you can see automatically it gets changed. So this way you can manipulate it around and say finish. You can change the fabric sheet here as well and say finish. So you have placed the fabric area reinforcement. Just filter it. Say structural fabric reinforcement. Okay. Same procedure. View squared. Okay. So in the 3D, you can see this fabric area reinforcement. So this is the way you can do the rebar, area reinforcement, fabric area reinforcement, and fabric sheet. Thank you.